Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Freaks with a Z, the podcast about movies. Each episode is about a specific episode, and of course, we'll get to this episode's movie in a little bit. But first, I need to invite you, the listener, to join in on the fan vote. That's right. It's happening right now as you're listening to this, probably, unless you're months late. The movies you can choose from are Alien, which was recommended by Kenobi, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was recommended by Topos, The Irishman, which was recommended by KG Productions, and Kung Fu Panda, which was recommended by Coco Control. If you want to vote for any of those four movies, or one of those four movies, head on over to my Twitter account at Yemmy the Ferret. The poll will be attached to the promotional tweet for the podcast. Whichever movie wins, we talk about in the episode after Calluses. Decide our fate. All right, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves before we introduce the movie. I am the Count of Yemmy the Ferret, and I'm here with...
Crystal Waffles.
Tay Nation. I don't know. I don't have one.
Alice Montego. I guess I don't know.
So if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you may maybe notice a few differences here. We're recording with some different software, possibly. So we'll see how it goes. You know, a lot of these audio recording things that give you multiple tracks for each person, they're starting to charge you, which is like not really a thing that I want to pay money for. So we're gonna try some new things out. We'll see how this one sounds. Maybe this is the new meta. We'll see.
Hopefully.
I hope so, yeah.
But yes, let's go ahead and get rolling on the movie. Tay, you picked the movie. Oh, what did you give us?
I sure did. I gave us The Count of Monte Cristo from 2002, directed by Kevin Reynolds, written by Alexandre Dumas and Jay Wolpert, stars Jim Caviezel, Guy Pearce, Christopher Adamson. I don't know if he had a big part, but okay. Henry Carville was in it. Dagmara Dominikzic. It's a Swedish name. I can't pronounce it. And Luis Guzman. Oh, and also Richard Harris. Oh, and James Frain. So those are the main characters. It was a young man falsely imprisoned by his jealous friend, escapes and uses a hidden treasure to exact his revenge.
Yeah, we've been doing disaster movies, and I gotta tell you, that was quite the disaster.
Yeah.
Being forced into prison, or just the movie in general.
Well, just the downfall of his character, and then
Yeah.
kind
For
of a
sure, for
disaster.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll count it. But I want to start the conversation. I don't even know where I want to start the conversation. I didn't think that far ahead, guys.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. What, just in general, I guess. What was your favorite part?
Oh,
Favorite
favorite part. Ooh.
Well, I
Nothing?
guess
Okay.
the best part of the movie is when everything starts to come around, and the
The ending.
the people who
fighting.
he needed to get revenge against were put into prison, and then of course the ending of the movie is pretty good.
Oh, I can tell you what my favorite part was.
I guess we don't want to start back at the end there.
I
What's
know.
yours?
Chill, yeah, it's like near the end, so.
Okay, well, let's start, I guess, at the very beginning. What do you guys think of the whole? I don't know.
What'd you
I don't
guys
know
think
yet.
of how stupid the main character is and how lucky he fucking is?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. There's a good starting point. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, he made terrible decisions, like, first of all, accepting the letter in the first place, and then, like, not even, well, I guess he can't read it, so the fact that he just chose to hide it and, like, didn't become suspicious at all that he was told not to share with anyone else, so it's like, wow, he's really that gullible.
Yeah, and like just how lucky he was too. Like the one guy, he misses both like the shot with his pistol with the guy who was aiming at him, and he throws the pistol at him, and his friend's like, "Oh, you finally hit something," you know.
Yeah.
That was good.
And it's just true. He's a fortunate character, you know. Instead of
Yeah.
getting reprimanded for going to Elba, which is the island that Napoleon Bonaparte was exiled to, he's captain, and he has a beautiful woman who's waiting to marry him, and everyone's proud of him.
Yeah. He's very naive and dumb.
And he's almost let off the hook too. You know, instead of being branded
Almost.
a traitor, almost.
Almost.
I don't know if he was fortunate though, considering he was imprisoned for 16 years.
Yeah.
Well, leading up to that, he was pretty fortunate.
Up
Yeah.
until the point, yeah.
His fortune ran out.
Yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, that part where he gets into the quote unquote carriage, and he's just sitting
Yeah.
there, and they lock it, and he's like, oh.
That's when it finally everything comes. Oh, I'm an idiot.
But I guess that kind of helps you like enjoy the transformation of his character in the prison, where he starts to
Yeah.
become, educated
Cynical
and
educated. Yeah.
right, and he's not just leaning on luck to get through life, even though it's kind of lucky that the guy dug the hole into his cage. But that's besides the point.
Yeah, I did want to. It's one of my things that I took from the movie is how the growth of these characters and like the overall like storyline is very well done in this.
Yeah, it's a pretty classic tale of revenge. You know, even though I don't think I've ever seen this movie before.
Yeah.
It was one that I kind of was like, oh, okay, it's one of these kind of revenge stories. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the-
this is based on a book by the same name.
Did you
So,
read the book?
I didn't. A lot of high schools back in my day, like, it was on the read list because it is considered one of like the classics. Like it came out in like the, I don't know, 1800s or something. So it is one of the first tales probably of revenge.
Hmm.
But, let me look.
It's a good thing to teach high schoolers is
Yeah.
get revenge.
Right?
Yeah, when I went to school, it was The Great Gatsby was the big one that you had to read.
Oh,
The
yeah,
Great
that was-
Gatsby and Tom
Animal Farm.
Sawyer. Oh yeah, Animal Farm. I totally forgot about that one. There was one other book that we had to read.
Yeah, it came out in
Um,
1844.
It was To Kill a Mockingbird. That was another one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was junior high for me.
That will always be a staple in high schools.
Yeah.
There was
well,
also the
maybe.
Cask of Amontillado, but that was like a short story though. That was not a book.
Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, we actually in English class learned all about Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
It was like it was like a whole week of courses on his writings
Yeah.
and just how depressed he was.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Which I kind of I kind of see a little bit of like that Edgar Allan Poe style in this movie. It's not as dark or dim, obviously there's no talking crow or anything like that, but I mean this style of writing is very reminiscent of that old timey, and the movie kind of does have a vibe, an overall vibe of like it kind of felt like Master and Commander, where it's like it's kind of a movie of its time. In the early 2000s, there was kind of like a style, for these grand big budget movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely had a good style, and yeah, you nailed it right. Like just the overall like scenery of the movie and where they filmed everything, and like the dressing and the clothing and all that. They got all that right. Swords. The powder guns, not the powder guns, but the bulky handguns that they used to have. Yeah, they did a good job with all that.
Yeah, I like the overall aesthetic of this movie. Especially in the second half, like all the costumes, like costume designs, and like the way that just everything was set design. So I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, the Count of Monte Cristo himself. I really enjoyed that kind of like maroonish, like not tuxedo but suit that he was wearing. It was very, very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Dresses well for a young man.
I don't know if he's young by the time that happens.
Yeah.
He had 8 years in
Yes.
prison.
16 years in prison.
16, yeah.
Well, I thought it was because I thought they said it would take them 8 years
No,
to dig out.
it was 14 years in prison, and then like 3 years with the pirates. I think.
I guess I'm a little bit off on the timeline then.
Well, they didn't dig out. Remember? Could see switch places with the dead body.
Right. But like every year was a whipping, and they showed like 3 whippings, and then the old man crawled up through the floor, and then I
Mhm.
thought that they did he did the calculations that said that it would take them 8 years to dig out, and they had just gotten kind of there.
Yeah, they were close. Yeah.
Imagine
I
digging
mean, I
for
know
that long.
he wasn't. I know it was at least 14 years he was in prison.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know
No.
exactly. But yeah, I would. I mean, I'm kind of claustrophobic, so I would not be gung ho to crawl around in those tunnels. And when the ceiling collapsed, I was like, there you go.
This is why you don't do it.
Mess around, find out, or whatever that meme is.
Yep.
What that mean?
Fuck around and find out, you mean?
Yeah, that one.
But
Oh, yeah, that
imagine
moment,
like digging for that all that time and then just dying.
Yeah, not even using the tunnel to escape either.
Yeah.
Well, I guess technically a tunnel helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that moment though, that like where the old man first crawled through the floor and then went to the other guy's cell, or like when they both went to the old guy's cell, and he was like, "Teach me, teach me all the ways." Or when do we start? So he said, I knew the exact kind of movie this was, like the rest of this movie was gonna be like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, here we go. Is this gonna be quite the ride?"
So were you saying it was boring up to that part?
No, I was
Oh, okay.
invested in that part, but like by that point, I knew exactly what was coming, and I was excited for it.
Oh, okay.
Definitely had a slower pace at the beginning, but like I didn't find it like boring. Like it was, you could tell it was leading up to something, and you're just like, all right, where's this going? This is good,
Yeah.
entertaining.
Yeah, it's another one of those movies. It's kind of like the build up, the journey to the end is kind of what's
Yeah.
most interesting. Even though the ending is very good, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't feel that the movie dragged at all. I felt like it had a pretty good pace. The whole digging scene, it's supposed to kind of be elongated because it is taking them, how many years to dig out of there.
Yeah.
But you're also seeing the character growth happen there, where he's learning how to read, he's learning to do mathematics, he's learning how to be a better
Sword
sword
fight.
fighter.
Yeah.
Which ended up helping. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
His words of advice really helped.
Yeah, yeah. What'd you guys think of the old priest? He was always one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I liked him.
But I don't know if that's just because Richard Harris does such a good job.
Yeah, that's probably it.
He's just always good at playing those old, like calm speaking guys. I don't know. I really like Richard Harris.
Yeah, he
He's
had
got
a
a
lot
good
of
voice.
good lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had great line delivery, and his cell was like he won the lottery with that cell. He had a seat. He had like an alcove where you could kind of lay on the stone. They gave him
Yeah.
all these books. Like he was living the life in there.
I figure like it's just yeah, like just like, well, you can read, so here's some books. And while Edmund, they're just like, you can't read, so you get nothing.
Yeah. You almost wonder what exactly was told to the prison keepers. Like, were they told like, yeah, this is a traitor, lock him up for good, or whatever? I mean, were they told anything, or was that just the cell that was open, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he had to be whipped, and I don't think they whipped the old guy. They didn't show him being, the priest being whipped.
I think they did though. I don't know.
Maybe
assume
they
they
do
did.
like different punishments for different prisoners.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
could be.
The priest, his punishment is, you get this chair. Ooh.
Priest had
It's-
to say bad things about the Lord.
Ooh.
This is your punishment.
Every year you must deny the Lord, your savior.
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, the
yeah.
priest does have a kind of a tragic backstory, which makes you, understand why he's so religious and why he is so strong in his beliefs, and you understand why, um, Edmund is so like, he's like, what the fuck,
Mhm. I thought there was a god. There is not. And then
Right.
when he meets his fiance again, and she's like, "No, there is." It's like if you had been what I've been through, you would realize there isn't.
Yeah, he goes through the ringer, and he comes out relatively on top. Like
Yeah,
maybe that is a sign that there was some sort of guiding hand helping him along the way.
yeah, maybe.
The movie was pretty heavy-handed when, especially at the end when it flashed the carving on the wall in the prison on the screen again.
Oh yeah,
At the end, yeah.
yeah. Back to the prison though. The guy running it, man, he's a dick. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, I know you're innocent, but we're still gonna whip you every year."
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like, I wonder if he was just playing along with him, because, like, as Edmund states over and over again, I know other people have said this. I'm innocent. I'm completely. Maybe he was just kind of like playing into that, making him think that he was on his side, and then whipped him. Just to be
Yeah.
like, ha ha ha.
I mean, he knew he had to know. Like, I mean, he's like, yeah, people who are sent here, they're innocent. No one wants to. They want to keep them separate from everyone else.
Oh yeah, he does
So
say that, doesn't he?
yeah, he's just like, yeah, no, I know you're innocent. I don't care though. I'm a shithead of a person, and I'm just gonna whip everybody.
It's what they pay him for. They probably pay him the
It
big
is.
bucks being on that lonesome island in that
It's
castle.
true. They probably do.
Yeah, I mean, every time they did like take someone to prison, they're like, "It doesn't matter" or something. Like they're always like, "Hey, we can't tell you. It's confidential." It's like, huh? No, I want to know why I'm going to prison, but they never told him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
had to
never told
figure
his
it out
family either.
himself.
Yeah. Well, I guess they told his family that he was a traitor, so they
Yeah.
shipped him off. Which, another sad thing, that his father, goes from being so proud of his son to, like, the next week hanging himself or whatever they said.
Yeah.
Tough.
Sad.
Well, welcome to
Welcome to the
Italy
what?
in the 1800s.
Yeah, 1800s or something.
Well, like, what was the point of the prison though? Like, they just send prisoners there to basically live out the rest of their lives and die, and they're just,
Yeah.
I guess, to suffer.
Yeah. And I'm sure there were some people there who were guilty,
Yeah, you pretty
but
much send them there when they have information that would, like, destroy, you know,
Mhm.
obviously that the main, like, what was his name? The police guy.
Villafort or
Yeah, whatever his name was. Obviously he wanted to keep his position of power, which is why he had his father killed, and then
yeah.
he sent Edmund to the island because I'm sure he kind of figured, like, okay, with enough time he'll figure it out. So let's just send him to prison and shut him away for the rest of his life.
If he hadn't sent him to prison though, he probably just been like, oh yeah, I don't know. I was supposed to meet some Monte Claire, and everyone who's actually smart and not naive would be like, oh. But he would just be like, although he probably wouldn't, say anything. He'd just be like, whew, I don't want to think about this ever again. Because
Yeah.
this was scary.
That
But, yeah.
that moment where they put Edmund in the carriage and he's like looking out of the cells towards Villefort. That was like a very impactful scene, which just like
The
brought
loss
me
of
like so
innocence.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, it then brought me so much joy. When he got revenge and the inverse happened, and like Villefort was being placed in
Oh,
the
yeah.
carriage and he's looking out the bars at Edmund. That
Yeah.
was probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, it was a very powerful scene, especially when he left him the pistol inside the carriage, and you think he's going to take
Yes.
the easy way out, but then there's there's no bullet or powder inside the gun, and yeah, the line that Edmund says to him after that, like, oof, That's a good one.
Yeah, good burn. Good burn.
Yeah, he was like, "Why, you think I'd make it that easy for you?"
Yeah. And it's interesting that, like, Edmund didn't actually want to kill any of the conspirators who went against him. Like, he kind of hangs the one guy, but then he tells the guards to, cut him down before he can't speak anymore, and then he just takes the one guy to prison. Now, the only one who doesn't make it out alive is his best friend, and even then he wanted to
Yeah.
let him go after, he found out that Henry Cavill was his son,
Yeah.
He did let him go, and then he came back.
Yeah. His friend came back of his own will, so at that point it's like,
Yeah.
all right, fucker.
Yeah.
You asked for it.
You want to battle to the death, so you're gonna get one. So I guess since we're talking about the line where he's just like, when he finally gets stabbed, he's just like, "What about your mercy?" And it's like, dude, shut up. you spit in that mercy his face. And he came back and asked for this.
Right. I found the finishing move to be pretty cool. A nice. They filmed it very nicely. Because I think there was even a line that the preacher said, like, "Oh, it's not." Or what did the preacher said something about, like, "Oh, it's not the strength
he
of the
said-
person, but the speed or whatever."
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, he kind of uses that, that whole, like, water grabbing thing to be quick and grab the sword, one of the swords out of his friend's hand and stab him. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think his original plan was to kill them all, but the priest kind of talked him out of it. So he's just like, all right, I'll get my revenge a different way, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
Goosemont's character wanted to kill them all. Wanted him to kill them all.
Yeah. I just go to Paris, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, I mean, Edmund wanted to rip everything from them, watch them suffer, and then
Yeah.
kill them. But he didn't end up killing. He only killed the one friend. So, I guess he did have a bit of a change of heart. Maybe not a change of heart, but just a change of plans as he went through it.
Well, I think especially once he found out that she was still on his side, the fiance, that's when he's like, all right, slight change of plans.
Yeah, I like how his whole plan, like the whole plan starts too. Like, the son gets captured, and
Yeah.
he's. I like how I just the way that everything kind of comes together is very I don't want to say magical, but it's just so kind of
Satisfying.
Yeah, satisfying. It's very, very satisfying how where it begins, and you go, oh, this guy, he's getting captured, and Monte Cristo saves him, and then you find out, oh, it's Luigi who captured him. It all comes together so well, and then Luigi shows up later and takes the treasure, and changes it out for the dirt. I mean, damn, it's just a very satisfying, like, lead up to the big conclusion.
Yeah. Ugh. So good. This is why I remember really liking this movie. I guess I wasn't really a kid. I was a teenager, but yeah, I used to watch it quite often because I was like, it's so satisfying. It's a good story.
It is a really good story.
And I think they executed it pretty well. I think I remember there are differences to the book that I used to know, but I never read the book. I just, what was said online. And I think it was one of those rare cases where the movie was better. Like, they took out a bunch of the boring stuff from the book. But I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes it does happen.
Especially with old classics.
Yeah, they'll remove the fluff or the long, like, narrations that lead to nothing,
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's kind of interesting because, the person who wrote All Quiet on the Western Front, when they originally did the movie for that back in, like, the 1920s or whatever, he was like, if you change anything, I won't let you use this, my book for your movie. So they actually kept it there's pages, there's lines of dialogue that are, like, ripped straight from the pages, which makes the movie a little bit more like a play, instead of being like a movie. And I feel like this movie also kind of does the same thing at times where someone's talking and I'm like, huh, kind of feels like I'm watching like a play unfold in front of me, which maybe it's what they were going
Yeah.
for, maybe, but it did kind of take me a little bit out of the experience a little bit. I don't know if anyone agrees, but
Yeah. Then there was a few times where it's just like, I don't know if it was like some of the acting sometimes felt a little like
a little dry, maybe.
rough,
Yeah.
dry, where you just it kind of took you out. You're like, well, that was a weird line delivery, but maybe it was just the line itself, which was taken from the book.
Yeah, possibly. I felt
But
like his friend was. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if he was like completely into the role. I don't know. I felt like it mostly happened with his friend when he was talking. I felt like I was just kind of watching a movie instead of. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, not like just watching a movie, not having a not having a great experience with his character.
Seeing the one that betrayed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
there was times I don't think he did like a horrible job. I thought his acting was mostly fine. But him, and also I think the fiance, there were times though where it's just like weird line deliveries where you're just like, oh, okay.
Maybe it was just the way that
Yeah.
his upper lip didn't fully touch his bottom lip. Maybe that just annoyed me. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I
yeah.
didn't mind anyone's acting. Yeah, I thought everyone did a pretty good job. And like I, it's funny because I didn't recognize Henry Cavill's character until like the very end, like when he was standing outside in the sunlight, and I could like clearly see his chin. I was like, wait a second, I do know that chin from somewhere. That's Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my
I
God. It's connected to the DC universe.
didn't. So Superman's also like Wonder Woman and was born in the 1840s
Yeah.
or something. But yeah, no, I did not put together that was Henry Carville. I was looking for him the whole time, and he was right in front of my face.
Yeah, Louis Guzman I immediately recognized because he
Oh,
did
yeah.
Yeah.
he was was he in the Wednesday show or was he in one of the reboots of the Addams Family? But
He is in Wednesday. Yeah.
He's in
yeah,
Wednesday.
he is he is the father in Wednesday. So
Yeah.
that's where I immediately recognized him from.
Yeah, this was like one of the first. This is, I think, the first movie I ever saw him with him in it. And every time I saw him after that, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's the guy from Count of Monte Cristo."
It's Dagger. Where's where's the earring?
Yeah. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, a lot
For
of great
sure.
actors in here. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on. I don't even know
Guy
the actor's
Pearce.
name. Guy Pearce. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to shit on him. I just feel like I feel like he wasn't given the best performance in this one. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, this was, I think, one of his earlier performances as an actor. I think Memento was his first one, which was the Christopher Nolan movie.
It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did good in that. But it might bug Yummy too, because he's still his lips just don't touch.
I didn't even notice that. So
don't look into it.
we're gonna
You know,
rewatch the whole thing now. No.
You know what kind of does bug me though? Like, and this obviously is historically accurate. They just let Napoleon Bonaparte kind of have run amok on that island. They don't lock him up. You know, he was a freaking dictator a warmonger, and they're just like, okay, go to Elba. We'll put some guards there. Just stay there. It's like why
Yeah.
don't you put Napoleon Bonaparte into
Chateau
the
d'If.
whatever it's called, Chateau d'If or whatever it's called. Like put him in there. You know?
Yeah. Because yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't. I don't. I mean, I believe it's true history, so we could probably look it up.
No, yeah. It is. It's
Yeah.
historically accurate in that sense where they sent him to Elba. He just kind of was there, exiled, quote unquote, and then he escapes. He starts another war. Then he gets exiled again. So it was a vicious cycle for a little while.
Yeah. You think after the first time he escaped, they wouldn't go, all right, back to Elba. They'd be like, okay, let's do something. Yeah, that's right. Elba was off Italy. The whole movie takes place in France, though, huh?
Right, yeah.
Mm.
Elba was just
That's
at the beginning, and then they're back in
Yeah.
France.
Yeah. That's right. I just was thinking Italy just because of the beginning when it shows the map of Elba. Italy's right there, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, takes place in Italy. It's like, no, it's France. It's France.
Just I was looking through some trivia here, and it says that Guy Pearce was originally offered the role of Edmund Dantes,
Oh,
which
that's
I'm
right. I
glad
do
that they
remember that.
haven't. I'm glad
Oh,
they gave him they did not give him that one.
Well, I think he specifically said, no, I want to be Montego or
Oh, really?
whatever Mondego.
It's a good call. Good call.
Interesting. Would have been a different vibe, that's for sure.
Mm.
Yeah,
I feel like it would have been a bit of a different
definitely. I don't know if he could have played off the naive idiot.
vibe. Oh man, yeah. Thinking back now, like that moment where Edmund goes into, his house, and he's like, "Oh, do you need some money?" He's like, "Yes, yes, please, thank you." And then all of a sudden he pulls out a sword. He's like, "Okay, now you are going back to jail or prison or whatever."
Yeah.
Very, very good moment because you're like, "Wow, why?" Like, I don't know. It's just like he goes to his friend's house and he's immediately asking for like money, and the guards are right behind him, and it's like, okay, this guy needs to grow up. Like, come on.
grow up. Oh wow.
He does and does.
That's right. Not exactly the way you think he's gonna grow up, but he grows up.
Yeah. Not in a fun way.
Well, it's growing up fun.
No,
Yeah,
not
That's a
really.
good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
What do you guys
So
think of like the way he actually escaped with trading bodies with the dead priest and just like putting himself in there, and then like the fact that he just got so lucky and managed to grab the keys right before they threw him off the ledge.
yeah, I kind of called it as soon as the body bag came in. But it
Yeah.
is it is it's a clever way to get out of there, especially because he kind of did like a body. He had to drag the old guy's body through the caves back to his cell.
Right? That was the one thing I wondered. It's like, why would you take it all the way over into his cell? Why don't you just leave it down in the tunnel?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe he wanted him to have an actual funeral eventually.
Oh, okay, that's true. That's true.
Maybe.
Although how much would
I doubt
a
it,
burial
though,
at sea,
but-
yeah, with
That is
the
a burial.
friggin' weights around your foot. I don't know if that's a great way to get buried, but hey,
Yeah.
I mean, if he would have left in the tunnels, that would have been technically a burial.
Yeah.
That's true.
You technically ain't wrong.
And then they wouldn't have known. Well, I
And
mean,
then,
they still
like,
probably figured out. He'd been like opened up and like, there's no one in here.
He should have put the bowl by the door. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously it all worked out. Kinda.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, I imagine if the guy didn't come running out to say like, hey, he swapped.
Oh
out
yeah,
the
he
body.
wouldn't have turned around.
Yeah, maybe he
and-
wouldn't have been able to grab the keys, but it kind of did look like he could kind of wiggle his way out of the weights. So I don't know if the key was really that important.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, the key was important because he dragged
Yeah.
the other guy down with him. So there you go. He was able to
Yeah.
get his first revenge of the
The
story.
first revenge, that's right. Which he got immediately after like having escaped a few seconds prior.
Yeah, I've been escaped for 10 seconds, and I get my first revenge. You'd think the other guards and stuff, though, like, it had been reported, like, oh, we had a prisoner escape, or maybe they don't want to, because they're like, that looks bad on us. We'll
Probably
just
not that
say-
many guards there in that place. That's probably all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
honestly, it was probably just like the 4 of them in that place.
Yeah.
That, and do they have the communication means to do that?
It would
Yeah.
probably take like a week or so to get a letter or whatever across the ocean or across wherever.
I mean, it's only 2 miles off the coast.
But then you gotta go on horseback, and then they gotta relay it to the next person in line.
A long time, especially since he got out and got a kill right in 10 seconds. So
Yeah, and they're just like, well, shit. Who's in charge now? I'm in charge. And we speak nothing of this.
You know, speaking of The Great Gatsby, this kind of a similar thing happens where the Count of Monte Cristo, he takes on this persona, and he has a fortune. He's trying to get all these people here, and it kind of has like a similar kind of thing going on, except I mean, he's not initially trying to get back with the girl like Gatsby is in The Great Gatsby, but
Yeah.
it does have it kind of maybe The Great Gatsby was a bit maybe inspired by the events of the Count of Monte Cristo.
Maybe. I've never actually read The Great Gatsby or watched the movie.
The book's pretty good. I'll say
Yeah.
that. When I was a kid and I was reading it, I was entertained, or well, I was I was invested in the story.
I think I did try to read it once, and I didn't make it very far. I was just like, meh. So at that time, I was just like, I want fantasy books. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the movie is all right. It's got some big names in there, and the one thing though is like I remember it being really weird because like they're using like pop songs at times. I
Oh,
forget.
I remember that. Yeah, that's weird.
I remember kind of making fun of it with Greedy Waffles back in the day because like Gatsby holds up the wine glass and all of a sudden like I don't know, a Lady Gaga song starts playing and it's like this is supposed to be the 1920s, right? Like
Yeah, that's silly. But we're not talking about The Great Gatsby.
well, I originally was
I know you were
comparing it,
comparing.
okay?
Yeah, no, I know, but we don't.
It's
need
your
to go
fault.
We just don't need to go into all the specifics of the music choices and whatnot of The Great Gatsby because maybe someone will suggest it someday, and then we can get into it.
Right.
Well, speaking of movie comparisons, did no one else think of Aladdin also when he came back as the Count of Monte Cristo?
I did not.
No, I not really.
Oh.
Anyone thinking
'Cause-
of the Monty Python? No.
Monty Python.
The Count of Monte Python, yeah.
Yeah, I guess well that's the other thing too. It's like the same problem with the Great Gatsby comparison is like Aladdin is trying to get the girl and Monty, Edmund isn't initially trying to get back with the girl. He's just trying to get revenge on
Everybody.
on the people.
Yeah,
who
and he even
wronged him.
assumed. Yeah, he assumes she was part of it since she ended up marrying Mondego a month after he got in prison. But that was because she
Right.
found out she was pregnant and was like, "Need to hide this."
Yeah, which is a nice twist too towards the end.
Yeah.
I like I said, I've never seen this, so I didn't really know what was going to come up. Even though I could kind of maybe predict the movie a little bit, but there were some twists that I couldn't predict, like the son being his son.
Yeah.
They did.
Well,
I
I
mean, Henry Cavill does kind of look like
Yeah.
Jim,
I'll say
whatever his name is.
He looks more like Jim than he does Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
So you're
He
like,
doesn't
either
have
the
the lip
mom's
thing.
the mom's genes are way stronger, or it's not his kid.
But you don't even think about that. Well, I didn't really think about that until towards the end, when it was revealed. So
It's definitely a good twist.
And then you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
The twist of Monte Cristo?
Yeah. Anything else we can think of? We want to discuss?
I don't think so.
what about, does anyone else have any like criticisms they have for the movie? I feel like we've been pretty positive here, of course. I don't know if anyone has any kind of criticisms they want to bring up. Don't bring it up during your rating and review, okay?
Like we've been having.
Bring it up now.
I just think this movie did slow down a little bit, but it picked back up, so it wasn't like long, but it did slow down a little bit for me.
Sure. It's definitely more of a slow build up, and then there's a little bit, and then it kind of builds up in the prison, and then once he starts making contact, it does slow down a little bit more as he, gets things ready. I didn't mind that.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't
was
like a make or break thing of a
Yeah.
movie, but
As I was watching it, I was like, oh no, Greedy's gonna be like, this movie was too slow.
no.
Oh, good.
God, this movie's 2 hours. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't really have any criticisms, honestly. I came away feeling pretty good about the movie, being very positive overall on it.
Yummy.
What? I asked you guys if you had anything else to add.
And we're asking you now. Do you have any criticisms?
The
More?
only other thing that I want to say is, I think it's just a limitation of the time. A lot of times when there was like an outside scene, the audio quality kind of dipped a little bit. Like when Edmund was talking to Napoleon Boner Fart, and that was on purpose, by the way.
Boner farts. They're now called boner farts.
Oh gosh.
You know, the audio was just kind of like, you know, very windy. You know, it's just, I mean, I understand that they're like out overlooking over like a cliff or whatever it is, but you know, there was some times where like, you know, like when you know, they were like two people were in a room, it was very echoey. You know, I think it was just a limitation of time, so I'm not gonna like be super critical about that. But there were moments where I was like, oh, the audio is kind of bad here.
I didn't notice really. I mean, I noticed the movie was very quiet. Like I had to turn the volume
Yeah,
up
I had to
really
turn it up,
loud,
too.
and I kept worrying like I have it up so high for this dialogue, and now there's gonna be some big like action scene or something that's gonna.
Well, it's
But
not a
nope.
Michael Bay film, so you're
Yeah,
lucky on that.
yeah. But no, like it stayed consistent. I think it was just always quiet. But you know, I have captions on, so I didn't notice necessarily the lower quality at times.
Yeah, very early in the movie, I was like, "Wait, what did he say?" I had to like rewind it a bit, and then I was like, "You know what? I'm just gonna put captions on."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no.
put 'em on too.
Captions are good for this movie, and then also, like I said, turn the volume up. It stays quiet the whole movie.
Yeah, I think usually I watch movies at like 25 volume, but I had to crank this one up to like 35. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I usually watch like with my TV around 13 to 20, somewhere in that area is usually good. I had to bump this up to like 50.
Whoa, jeez, it's quite the bump.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah,
not quite that much, but it was a bump, a big bump.
I guess along with like my problems with some of the audio quality in there is I felt like the score, like the music score, I mean, it wasn't like super memorable, and I also like, I don't know, it's just, it kind of seemed a little bit generic too. Like I've seen movies like the Romeo and Juliet movie, and you know, even Master and Commander, and it's just kind of like, yeah, you know, it's just kind of like it's there in the background. I don't really notice it, and that's a sign of just, maybe that's a sign of the music just kind of fitting the movie, or maybe it's a sign of like the
Yeah.
movie, or I'm sorry, the music not being memorable. You know.
Well, it definitely wasn't memorable, but I think it fit the movie. Like I think it can be both of those things where you're just like it's there to it doesn't necessarily like it kind of enhances the whole vibe, but like not in a way where you go like, "Oh, this is a banger."
Yeah, yeah. I think the one thing they should have had was maybe a main theme or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
maybe have a main theme play when, you know, Monte Cristo's comes on the screen or something like that. You know, it's like the Phantom of the Opera where it's like "Da-na-na-na-na-na" when the
Yeah.
Phantom comes on screen. Like maybe have something kind of maybe not similar,
agree.
but something like that where it's like a theme of the Count
Yeah.
appears on screen.
All right, you know what? Yeah, that can be my criticism too. The fact that just the music was, I didn't really notice it. It wasn't really anything there that was memorable.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
It was there. Like I feel like you definitely wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't there.
Well,
Maybe
there's some
was
movies
it there?
that yeah, there's some movies that do that really well where there's not a lot of music happening. I can't really. I mean, I'm trying to think of one that comes. I mean, the only one that came to mind, like as soon as I said that, was Swiss Army Man for some reason. I don't think that movie had much of a soundtrack to it, and I think it worked because he was alone, and like the moments where like the crazy stuff was happening, where he's like riding the dead body at like a surfboard or whatever. Like, yeah, there's a bombastic part there, but for the most part, like the music was not really there because it was kind of like just more of an ambiance type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas a movie like this, like as I was kind of describing before, it kind of does feel like a play at times. So you kind of, you know, imagine like the pit orchestra, you know, playing the music, and it's not like, I don't know, it just kind of like blended with the background noise, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Swiss Army Man, there's a movie I might recommend someday.
Yeah, I still need to.
That's a weird one.
It is
I have not
I
seen it.
hear. I've never seen it. I remember wanting to kind of see it, but so add it to your list, Yemmy. Do it.
Put it on your list.
Yep.
Yeah. You haven't seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys want to bring up before we get to our final thoughts?
I'm
Mm.
good.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, good with it.
All right, Tay, lead us off.
All right. So this movie, like I said, I loved it when it came out. Like I didn't see it in theaters, but like my parents owned it on DVD, and I just remember watching it a bunch. Usually while I was working, because it was just a good movie for that. Um, and yeah, like the story itself, I think is just really good. Like that story of revenge, and it comes together so well. And it's just satisfying to watch. Um, you know, as we said, the music wasn't really anything to write home about. Um, the acting I thought was really good for the most part. Like I said, there was a few scenes here and there where it's just like that line delivery just seemed weird, and I don't know if it was the actors or if it was just because it was a weird line. Um, but overall, like I said, it's a fun movie. It comes together so satisfying. I think I will give it. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
All right. Okay, so so here's everything that I didn't not like about the movie. I'm kidding. So I thought it was a great movie. I really
Curse you,
enjoyed my time
cows.
with it. um, yeah, I didn't really have like any until I just realized that the music was there was like nothing to write home about. I came away like feeling very positively about the movie, and it's one that I would definitely watch again. That I was glad that Tay recommended it. So thank you for that.
No problem.
I feel
Is
like
it pouring down rain over there?
no, the laptop is just the fan
Oh.
just came out very loud.
Well, we'll imagine it's pouring rain.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
Florida,
It's a
that
stormy
happens.
night.
Sorry.
I know, yeah, sorry. I'm trying to like turn the laptop away, see if I can avoid the noise a little bit better. Anyways, as I was saying, what was I saying? Curse you, Yummy.
You were saying what you liked about the movie.
Yeah, I came away very positive on it. I really like the way the story unfolded. This very satisfying story of revenge to where I was surprised that it didn't end on a bad note like other revenge movies do. Like they're going after the revenge is so, and they get so caught up in it that they don't realize how it's hurting them, and like they end up losing everything in the end or blah blah blah. But no, everyone actually had a pretty happy ending. It's just a very satisfying movie overall. And I would have to agree with Tay in giving it a 4.5.
Alrighty. Yeah, feel free to interrupt me just so I can get my just desserts.
Revenge.
I enjoyed the movie. I thought it had a nice pace to it. It kind of had that vibe of like a early 2000s movie, which
Definitely.
it is a vibe. It's a vibe, and it's not a bad thing. Some of the blood and makeup stuff is a little bit like it's like just coming out of that 90s phase, getting into the 2000s, and like we had the better cameras, but it doesn't look as good on camera. It's a vibe, and I enjoy that vibe. Like I think I said the same thing about Master and Commander too. Yeah, I thought that most of the acting was good. I mean, there were some sections where it felt like I was kind of watching the actors read the script instead of, being acting in a movie, which, obviously that's not a huge thing, but it's one of those things that kind of takes you out of it. And if the movie is going to go for like a more play like quality, then they should keep it consistently throughout the whole thing instead of it being like, oh, this scene is, with this monologue feels more like a play and this scene feels more like actors in a movie. I don't know, that's just me. Yeah, the music was not memorable. I would have liked maybe them have maybe a theme for the Count of Monte Cristo himself, just so kind of real, brings it all in. But yeah, I like the cinematography was good. Most of the acting was good. The story was fantastic. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all you guys. The acting was good. I did say, that I felt like it did slow down, but it didn't like break the movie or anything. It does slow down a couple times, but it picks back up. The ending is really good. I love how everything just comes together, and we're not left on any cliff notes or cliffhangers. So that was really nice. It is a long build up, but like I said, it's a fun watch, and I enjoyed it. I'm also gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
All right.
Cool.
Tay's on like a streak of 4 out of 5 movies for us.
Well, I do what I can.
To be honest, if you look at my not tier list, but my list of Film Freaks movies and their ratings, 4 is pretty consistent among them. I think I have a lot of 4s, and I probably have a few more 5s than the rest of you. All right, Callus, what are
Yes.
you cooking?
Alice.
We're gonna let you cook. Give you the aux cable.
Well, well, Tay picked one of his favorites, so I'm also going to pick one of my favorites, one that I have seen many, many times, but I actually haven't seen in a couple of years, so I think it's time for a rewatch. And it's one that I would love to talk about with you guys. So I am going to choose 2010's Inception.
Ooh.
Been
Yeah.
a while since I've seen that.
So the movie is about a thief who steals corporate secrets through the use of dream sharing technology. Is given the inverse task of planting an idea into the mind of a CEO. But his tragic past may doom the project and his team to disaster. There we go, disaster movie.
There you
All
go.
right.
And I apologize in advance. It is not streaming anywhere for free, so you'll have to rent it through any of the channels, Prime or Google Play, or any of those.
Okay.
But I
No
mean, you should
problems
all own it. Let's be honest. You should all own it on Blu-ray or
I think
Ultra
I-
HD.
I think I do have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Who are some of the actors and actresses in the movie, Callus?
Oh, sorry about that. Yes. The film was written and directed by Christopher Nolan and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Elliot Page, Ken Watanabe, Tom Hardy, and many more. And Marion Cotillard, cannot forget about her. And Michael Caine. So many good names here.
The most Christopher Nolan, staples.
Yeah.
And a few extras.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, I haven't watched it in a while either. I don't think I've
Yeah.
watched it since after my initial watch, honestly.
Wow.
So this will
I
be
used to-
interesting.
After it came out on Blu-ray, I bought it day one, and like I used to watch it like every single year after it came out, but then I eventually stopped.
Well, hey, if you, the listener, want to join the conversation, or if you want to not be spoiled for Inception, go ahead and watch that before the next episode airs in 2 weeks. That's right. And also, don't forget to jump on over to my Twitter account at Yemmy the Ferret and vote on the fan vote. Just as a refresher, you can vote for Alien, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Irishman, or Kung Fu Panda this time around. A very interesting selection of movies, all kind of different in their own right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
good
Nice
mix
variety,
there.
yeah.
But yeah, vote for whichever movie you want, and we will talk about it after Callus's episode.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we end the show?
Well,
You know what we're gonna say.
Go ahead.
Do it, people. Do it. Be sure to clean your ass.
don't forget the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing.
At the bottom.
Not the bottom, not the top.
Well, shouldn't you do your bottom to top?
Technically, yeah, I guess it should be one at the top.
All right. Well, I am the Count of Yemmy the Ferret, and I was here with.
Monty Waffles. Or I was Crystal Waffles. My bad.
Hey, Mation. I'm just a guy who lives there.
And Kellis Montego.
I meant to say this during the podcast too. I love Monte Cristo sandwiches.
Yes, that sounds really good.
So I did look up differences between the book and the movie. And
There's no sandwiches in the movie.
There's no sandwiches. One of the first differences is Mondego, is not Dante's friend. He's Mercedes' cousin.
What?
Well, it was a
And-
different time.
It was a different time. Well, they're nobles. Nobles married their cousins all the time. But yeah, that they changed that for the book or the movie because it's more impactful to be betrayed by his friend and also you. Don't marry your cousin.
So
There's a-
actually, the Monte Cristo is a French dish
Yeah.
that originated in Paris. So maybe they called it the Monte Cristo because
After the
of
book.
the book. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
There's a restaurant by me and Yemmy that makes oversized sandwiches, and they have a Cristo sandwich. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. They have like a cranberry sauce that comes with it. Delicious. All right, let's go ahead and re-end the show. I am.
Oh, yeah.
The Yummy the Ferret. And I was here with.
The yummy Cristo waffles.
Taymation. Again, just a regular guy.
And Kellis Montego, whatever. I said.
And this has been Film Freaks with a Z. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.